Cool. So this is a breakdown of wraps and lease options and why we enjoyed this. And some of the things I can cover is from hustle to purpose and why we chose this strategy. We first started wholesaling, scaled up a wholesaling operation, doing about 6 properties per month wholesaling, but it's very similar to flipping. There's just a lot of money that's moved around and not a lot of long-term wealth is being created because we weren't holding on to any properties. That's where we came from. We're doing all this work, working hard, and then 1 month goes by, we're not getting deals and all our reserves just flow out. So I'm going to talk about why I think this is the blue ocean of single family real estate, how to identify good wrap markets, or how to know, like, is my market a good wrap market, how to structure and underwrite wrap deals, rules of thumb to know about wraps, like to see if a property would be good for a wrap, how to find a legit wrap buyer, and the biggest lesson we've learned from doing over 60 creative finance deals. A bit of my backstory. I told you about wholesaling. I was a backpacker. I lived in Australia for a year. I lived in Bali. After college, I started soul searching and figuring out like what I want to do with my life, and entrepreneurship never really crossed my mind. I started traveling, checking things off the list of what I did not want to do. Out of necessity, I learned how to make money online, which started me on the path of business and being an entrepreneur. I had a Squarespace development company, I had a drop shipping e-commerce. Eventually I got burnt out. I was selling products I didn't care about. I was sacrificing my purpose in life because I felt like I want to make a difference in the world and have a positive impact on the world while making money. But I had this whole mindset of, let me borrow first and make the money, and I'll figure out the money thing in a year, make $1 million, and then focus on my purpose. And that 1 year turned into 4 years. And I wasn't any closer just selling products from China using Facebook ads. It was not my life purpose, and it created a lot of stress. I moved to Kansas City to start a real estate company with my friends. We scaled that wholesaling operation, and I realized I was just drop shipping houses. I was like, how did I get here? I'm just selling houses to hedge funds, the end all be all. Around that time, we found Pace Morby, we found Sub2, we started doing creative finance deals, and we found a local mentor who's been doing a form of wraps in Kansas City for 20 plus years. And he taught us how to do our first deals. So most of the families that we sell to are first generation Americans. They're mostly Latin American. And when we sold to them, they were achieving the American dream by gaining access to home ownership. We turned $10,000 wholesales into $100,000 gross profit deals over a time horizon. We felt good at the closing table because it was literally a life-changing moment for them. And we also 10x'd what our lifetime value of our product was. And we fell in love with it. A few months ago, I want to share this with everyone. There's a freebie. A few months ago, I went to an event in Austin that was around being a fulfilled millionaire. They had this exercise that we went through that allowed for us to craft out the foundation of like why it is we're doing what we're doing. This is one of the things that really aligns me with Pace, talking about, what is your Everest? What is the why behind everything that you're doing? Because I found that a lot of real estate was empty of that why. And so this exercise right here allowed for me to really craft like, what does my dream life look like? What does my dream life look like day in and day out? What am I doing on a day-to-day? Where am I located? How much money do I need to make? This breaks down everything like dream vision, financially, how much you actually need to earn on a monthly basis, and how much you need to have in your bank account to create those residuals. I want to share this with you guys as working backwards from your dream life. I'm a lifestyle entrepreneur. I don't need a bajillion dollars. I want to set up my life so I can live the life that sets my soul on fire, life of my dreams. Why I love this model and real estate is that if you work backwards, once you get $10,000 a month of residual income, you're freed up to step into your life purpose. You're freed up to take a step back, take a breath, not be stressed about money, and ask questions like, what sets my soul on fire? What do I really want to do? Maybe that is scaling further, going to bigger asset classes, or starting a mission project or a nonprofit. Let's get everyone to tier 1 financial freedom. From there, people have a choice about what the next thing is to do.
Love this terminology called tier 1 financial freedom. Nobody said that before. It is so important to know what tier 1. So financial freedom, again, from some online research and stuff like that, $1 million is not enough these days. And $1 million is not going to get you financially free, but it's going to get you on a path. You are so trapped. You feel like you are literally in a jail. I mean, at least that's how I felt in my 9 to 5. How do I get out of this? If I get out, I'm letting go of a couple $100,000. I was fortunate to have a really good job. That literally pushes me back a few years. So I had to work twice as hard, build something. What Phil is showing is the most optimum way to get to tier 1. That's why we brought him here. We actually brought Phil on because I have started so I already have a same business in Texas, but I started the similar business in Midwest. And I feel like I can learn a lot from Phil because of this exact background that he has. But go on, Phil. Sorry, I just wanted to put some perspective in there.
Yeah, amazing. I love it. And the tier 1 is like that amount that's going to allow for you just to take a step back and breathe. receive. Feel free to pop in here. Like in the classroom, there's a few videos and worksheets to like get you to do that ChatGPT exercise. For me, that's truly the starting point. Because, you know, without a ship at sail and sea, without a destination, it's just floating around, right? And we don't want to be just floating around within our lives. And we want to know, like, this is the direction I'm going. Like, this is what my dream life looks like and it's possible. And I'm taking steps towards being there. So the business in a nutshell. We buy properties at 70 to 80% of the property value. We put long-term financing in place. So here is where you have the question number one of this model is, how am I putting long-term financing in place? And there's different answers to that question based off of what your skill sets are and what the skill sets are that you desire to develop. We have several different ways to do this. One of them is you buy property creatively, right? So that's probably the easiest way to get long-term financing in place is you find creative financing deals. They already have the financing in place. The first 15 plus houses we did with this model were all creative, right? We bought them seller financing, we bought them hybrid, subject to seller financing, and then we didn't do any rehab at that point. We would just buy properties as is, seller finance them as is. A lot of the families are handy. A lot of them, most of the families are Latino, like they have businesses around construction. They want to build in their own equity. And we allow for them to do that because we didn't want to do the rehab process. As we started continuing forwards, we wanted to scale the model and we couldn't find enough properties that were subject to in Kansas City. So then we started doing more of a BRRRR model where we bought, renovated, refinanced, and sold on seller finance. Those are two of the main ways to do it. We call that the jacket strategy because you're getting a BRRRR and then you're wrapping the BRRRR like a jacket. I like the BRRRR model. Nice, the jacket, the BRRRR. I like both of these.
Sucks. I'm going to say even sub 2 to owner finance kind of sucks because you are managing someone else's. But the BRRRR model is real deal because it's your own. And I'm going to add to your thing later what I mean by that. But let's park that for now.
For me, getting started at the very beginning, like doing the seller finance to wrap or to contract for deed, that made it easier. If you're doing your first deals, I wouldn't be afraid. Subject twos have a little bit more like to manage and to think about like in regards to the financing. But at the same time, it takes away the whole rehab component for people in our community. The first step is like really deciding what skill sets you want to develop, you know, because some people like are like, yeah, I want to learn how to flip. I want to learn how to renovate. Then like the BRRRR model, the jacket strategy is amazing strategy. Other people are like, that's like the last thing I want to do. There's other ways to do it, but it should really be based off of what skill sets you care to develop. So I think that's the biggest thing is life is a long game. Business is a long game. You're just stacking skills, whether it's raising private capital, acquiring properties or renovating, all those are valuable skills. Once we have long-term financing, we seller finance families at full market value or up to 15% above. These families pay a premium for in-house financing in place. You don't get the appreciation when you're doing a wrap or a seller finance deal, but you create appreciation when you sell because they're paying above market value. You're actually forcing appreciation and then you get to collect that cash flow afterwards. So depending on the type of deal, typically our jacket strategy deals, when we do the BRRRR model, we're usually cash flowing about 400 to 600 per deal. Subject twos cash flow more if you had that interest rate arbitrage. So anywhere from 400 to 1200 a month. We enjoy interest rate arbitrages and built-in equity. So this is real cash flow. There's no capital expenditure. You're not fixing properties. Like the families have ownership mindset and they're taking care of anything that may come up. So this is true cash flow. You get every month. It's as passive as it gets in single family real estate. Growing market opportunity. Most families that buy from us are first generation Americans, mostly Latino. Regardless of what's going on with the current administration, with ICE, all of that, this is still the fastest growing demographic in the United States. 19% of the US population are Latino, expected to be 30% by 2050. They have $3.6 trillion in spending power in the USA as of 2024. It's an underserved demographic. It's not that they have bad credit, they typically have no credit. And so the banks have their go-to products and the banks are just not serving this demographic and they want to own houses and they want to buy houses. They're not served by current banks. Another thing we love about this model, we're creating homeowners, doing good while doing a positive impact, passively creating cash flow for ourselves and for our families. These are some of the families that we sell our finance to. These guys are really cool. They have a few goats at the house. These guys brought like $30,000 in cash to the closing table. If you see the bearded guy on the right-hand side, that's a friend of ours. And we actually seller financed him into a house. The families are really happy. There's a lot of really amazing, like each of those families have an incredible story. My thing is 10 houses to tier 1 financial freedom just to get breathing room. These are some of the deals we've done. We always look at projected 7-year profit because families will sell or refinance after 5 to 7 years. This one cash flowed 538. This one 605. 702, 723, 506. Those are pretty standard deals. Now, where do I find a good wrap market? Hopefully you're enrolling the idea that this is a great exit strategy. Single family real estate is it's a blue ocean. There's not a whole lot of competition and these buyers are underserved. So here are some key rules of thumb for identifying a good wrap market. Like, don't buy $1 million houses in rural areas with populations of like 3,000 people. Right. So here's some rules of thumb we came up with. One is within 30 miles of a major city metro. If you're in markets like Texas or Florida, where there's high Latino demographics, you can get a little bit flexible with these. But just like a rule of thumb is you want populated areas, population size minimum of 100,000. I like Latino populations above 10% in the area. Affordable housing. So affordable housing for the win. If your sale price is between 1,500 and 2,000, they're really easy to sell. 2,000 to 2,400, they're easy to sell. 2,500 and above, it's more challenging and market dependent. In the Midwest, these are key rules, including taxes and insurance. So if you're doing this in Ohio, you're going to find a lot of properties that fit into this area. Just any houses between 60,000 and 300,000. Once you get above 300,000, the PITIs go a bit higher. And then, you just have to do everything's an analysis, right? It's all market analyses. These are rules of thumb. When people start doing wraps, follow these rules and find properties easier to sell. So you don't want to get headaches on your hand.
So of course, you touched on what owner finance is, but so what are calling affordable housing is what I call. So I started teaching in sub 2 exactly like wraps when PACE started the community. At that time, things were really good because our interest rates were good. With creative finance, those are possible. However, in Texas markets, we have to stay under certain amount because our taxes and insurance is really, really high. In Midwest, overall income is lower compared to some major states like Texas or California. Keep in mind, taxes and insurance can add up. The affordability zone, what you call affordable housing, I call affordability zone. That zone is within like between 100 and 300 in Texas. 300 on the really high side. Like 225 would be the most ideal property to sell, which is hard to find in Texas. Phil is talking about in Midwest or Kansas City for that matter. Is Kansas City considered Midwest?
Yes, right in the middle.
Yeah. So Kansas City or in general Midwest, I mean, overall housing is fairly affordable compared to the rest of the country. That's probably my most favorite market in the entire nation, honestly. So anyways,
we have a lot of students that we have a lot of students that do it virtually also. I agree. The Midwest is amazing. We have people doing it in Louisiana, Indianapolis, Alabama, Texas, Kansas City, Arkansas. The Midwest makes everything easier for long-term financing in place and just for general affordability. And there's also like high Latino demographic populations there as well. And just to share, like when we first started, we were buying properties all across the board. We were buying whatever sub 2 like seller financing deal we could get. We would just lock it up and wrap it. We've sold houses as high as 550,000 in Kansas City, which is pretty high. We found they're a little bit harder to sell because there's a smaller buyer pool.
The reason being, I mean, you are able to sell even 550 house in Kansas City, and it's harder for me in Texas because taxes 3 to 4 times higher and insurance is 2 to 3 times higher.
You have to look at it holistically. In the Midwest, we want the sales PITI ideally to be under 2,500, but there's flexibility. If you're doing your first deals, make it easy for yourself. Have properties that are easy to sell. And then as you get comfortable, you can start expanding. PITI, typically we're looking at market rents. So if the market rents in an area are, $1,500, we're fine being 15 to 30% over those PITI. We also pay attention to market rents as well, because when properties, if the market rents are 1,200 and we're trying to sell it for 2,200, that's when properties sit for a lot longer and it's more challenging to find buyers. Our typical buy box is 3 bedrooms plus. In the Midwest, we bought basements. It's like a lot of the Latino demographics are afraid of tornadoes, which is something that we never would have thought about. So basements are really big. Like slab foundations in the Midwest don't sell. In Texas, everything's a slab, so that's not the case. And it's also for storage as well. But it's really challenging to sell slab foundations in the Midwest markets. Large living spaces, so unfinished basements are amazing. Large backyards are amazing. Off-street parking is super important. A lot of these families are entrepreneurs. They have some sort of construction businesses a lot of the times. And so like having a place to park their big trucks is really important. And then large yards as well. So just like a lot of these growing families get super excited about.
Just one point to add here is what you mentioned about large yard. I just want to emphasize that heavily is because in Texas, especially, I mean, if you are going to consider doing wraparound mortgages in other parts of the country besides Midwest, then, and if they are as expensive as Texas, in that mid-range, or Georgia is pretty similar. 300,000 and up, those houses will sell on a wraparound mortgage quickly, especially if there are bigger lot sizes. If they are sitting on a half acre, 1 acre land, Latino community loves land. And I love land too, of course. Everybody does. But especially Latino community, where they come from, they are looking for a bigger piece of land. When Phil is talking about affordable housing, or what I call affordability zone, when we are talking about wraparound mortgage buyers, 90% of the buyers will be in that range. What that means is, if you have a property, and I have sold properties on a owner finance that are 700,000 in the market with over 20% down payment. Those buyers exist, but they're unicorns. Less than 5% of buyers can afford that. But your property characteristic has to match the area, and comps dictate the price. But what's attractive for an owner finance buyer from the Latino community is in that regard, if you start thinking, land is going to be at like their top 5 attributes, right?
That's correct. Living space as well. Duplexes sell super fast. Any duplex or additional dwelling units, like things like that, sell extremely fast on seller financing because they're going to move a family member in there, their parents or cousin. Large yards, additional living spaces, or finishable basements, like 3 top things. This is an equation. All this information is like meant to give you guys more data points to think about when doing deals. It doesn't need to check every single one of these boxes, but this is what we found makes it really easy to sell these deals.
Awesome.
Okay. So a few lessons of the trades, how to sell deals. This is one of the biggest questions people have, like, how do I find buyers? So the easiest one is to find an agent that specializes in seller finance buyers. So we have a few of these in Kansas City. This is the easy button. So like, find an agent that literally has a business around finding these buyers, and find a good one. Typically you pay these agents $3,000 to $5,000 or 15% of the down payment. That's the price point we want to be in for what we pay the agents.
In Texas, we have paid up to 6%, which is over 50% of the down payment, because we get about 10% on average. We pay around 4%, close to 50% of the down payment. I'm glad to hear the Midwest pricing is much favorable.
We're also working on building something out to help people find wrap buyers. That's like another product that we're starting to think about and build out. Yeah. The other one is Facebook Marketplace, Latino groups, making posts, being consistent. For us, the big thing with finding buyers, our entire business, is I don't want to be a realtor. So I want to structure things. That's why I started finding who, not how. If that doesn't work, then Facebook Marketplace is really good. Facebook ads is really good. It's like Marketplace on steroids. Signs in the system. You can put bandit signs in the front yard and in the general area and drive traffic somewhere. Craigslist, Zillow, MLS listings. This is all ranked in like the area in the range that I would do it. Like, find an agent, find the easy button if you can. There's no reason to make life challenging. If you need to do it manually, like Facebook Marketplace, Facebook ads is like the easiest because you're just dealing in text. A lot of these families is basically getting people to look at houses, send them to the property, have a system so they can let themselves in, and send people to the houses. Someone's going to buy them.
Nice. So one thing about Facebook Marketplace I want to mention, and finding buyers, we've never been able to find a buyer on our own. First of all, I'm an immigrant in this country. I still have an accent. Me talking to a Latino buyer, my English with an accent is the farthest from what they're looking for to speak to on the phone. Even if and I've seen this with even Latino investors looking for Latino buyers, when you don't know what to say on the phone, it is hard to convince buyers to buy, or make one of the biggest purchases in their life. Okay. So, think about the situation these people might be in. Some are undocumented. Some have challenges with visa and immigration. Some have challenges with cash, jobs. There are tremendous, just beyond our imagination what they are going through. When convincing them to buy property, always use an agent, like Phil said, or broker in your area who specializes, who's been doing it for years. Easy button, like Phil said. Agents are always marketing properties on Facebook Marketplace as well. But the Facebook Marketplace is going to give you, so this is my experience, and correct me if I'm wrong, Phil, that we have seen 10 of people request information, but nobody ever picks up a phone call, even if there is a Latino person making those calls. Have you had the similar experience with Facebook Marketplace?
For sure. We mostly manage everything through texting on Marketplace to get them to the properties. But most of the properties we sell is through an agent. Like, that it works. It's easier. Yeah. We only do manual marketing when we have to.
If you want to try this strategy, some key topics Phil and I are discussing, do not ignore that. Watch this episode again, request a link in our group because wraps work. I've done 40 plus wraps and I'm currently holding that many in my portfolio. And I cannot tell you better things about a strategy than wraps. It works, but has its own quirks and you have to make sure you keep them. And one of those things is working with a broker. Working with a broker is almost 100% needed, especially in your initial phase. Again, my business partner is on the call, Eric Richards, who is doing it successfully on his own. Will get his perspective at the end, but I don't want to interrupt more than I already did. Phil, keep going.
These are great points. I have mentors who've done everything through Marketplace virtually as well. It's more manual, and having an agent is extremely helpful. For an exit strategy in single family real estate, going from flipping to holding or wholesaling to holding is the easiest jump. Okay. So pricing a deal. So when the deal doesn't move, the down payment's always the lever. If a deal is sitting and not moving, you lower the down payment, you can adjust the down payment to then help the deal to move. That's like the easiest thing to assist it in moving. In Texas, it's different because you're doing true wraps, giving the deed over to the family. So be careful. You want to know like what is your exit if the family like stops performing.
Right. That makes it harder too.
In the Midwest, we're doing long-term lease options, 30-year lease options with rent credit schedules. That way it's just an eviction if we need to get them out. And we've had 2 families who have given properties back of our entire portfolio of 60 plus, and both of them gave us the keys back. None of them made us go through an eviction process. They're like, hey, like I lost my job. I can't do this anymore. Here are the keys. And that's another amazing thing about working with the demographic that we work with. 15% of our market value, like a little bit of cushion on there in exchange for in-house financing, 50 to 30% of our market rents. Next, you have the property, you found the buyer, you brought them through closing, how to manage the notes. We use a loan servicing company. We have everything go through our loan servicing company. So I don't want to have people texting me about issues. I just structure things in a way that they know to go to the servicing company, who would then send us an email if there's any sort of issue. That's a lifestyle design hack. If you get in cahoots with the families, they're going to message you and say, hey, I'm going to be late on this day. Or, hey, they might even say like, hey, like this thing stopped working. Like they have ownership mindset, just like when you buy from banks. We put everything through our servicing company. They collect the payments, deal with communication, and that way it protects us from feeling like landlords. Another cool thing you can do once you have a bunch of notes is this model creates a lot of equity and cash flow, but it doesn't always create cash. It's important to have an active income strategy to start doing more wraps. There are ways to leverage your notes. We call them cash streams. We can bring an investor on to one of our notes. They give us money now. We pay them the cash flow from that note. For example, we have a house. We have for $100,000 financing in place. We have $50,000 of equity in the house after we sell our financing. We now have that $50,000 of equity sitting in that note that's being realized over time, right? We can sell off that cash flow to bring in an investor who'll give us capital now, and they receive the cash flow with an interest rate. More advanced strategies, but to tap into some of the equity in your deals. Cool. So
You
recap.
are getting a loan against the equity. Is that what you said?
You can use the note as collateral and borrow against it. People do this with banks. Like a lot of people who are doing the same model as us in land, they do a lot with local banks, buying large amounts of land.
Yeah, we do that.
Yeah, exactly. So it's just a more advanced strategy to tap into equity. It's just interesting things to be aware of. Cool. I'll do a quick recap and then we can open up for some Q&As and answer any questions. So once again, why we love the model. Growing market, 10 houses to tier 1 financial freedom, like gets your like first amount in there to cover ideally most of your living expenses. You're doing good while it's having a positive impact. You're creating more homeowners and changing generations, achieving the American dream. We have a free school community that has like underwriting tools. We have a bunch of stuff in regards to this model. If it's an area that you want to go deeper, come and hang out with us. We have people doing this model across the country, very focused on this strategy. We have a community of people doing wraps all over the country, weekly calls, speakers as well. This is Dan. Dan had a few bad flips in Alabama. He was underwater on these flips. He did the BRRRR model or the jacket model where he refinanced and found families. This is the family he financed. Jacob Trogan, an equity millionaire at 25, he used to work for us. He started doing 1 per month over the past year and a half, sometimes 2 per month. He now has 20 plus enough passive residual income to cover his living expenses.
Love your terminologies. Equity millionaire, tier 1 financial freedom. Are those common or you came up with it?
I think I came up with it.
That is so cool. It just hits the spot. Amazing way to explain it. Thank you.
For sure.
Just wanted to say that. Go ahead.
Equity millionaire, meaning like in his notes, he has $1 million worth of note equity.
Awesome.
Between between what we owe the banks and what the families owe us. Kyle Trevsky started from zero. He is a full-time traveling nurse, now on his third wrap in Texas. He did this while working full-time. This is Dan. He had 3 bad flips in Alabama. He sold them on seller financing. Now he's cash flowing assets where he was going to come like $100K out of pocket. Corey Morrison, another full-time guy. He's doing his first ever wrap in Kansas City, just acquired the property. Sam Mayberger worked for us. Now has done 3 to 4 wraps and lease options around Kansas City. It works. I'm happy to hop on calls and answer any Q&As. I have a link for a call if anyone wants to hop on a call, but now we can do some Q&A.
I think this is one of the strategies in today's market that is definitely working. I don't say that about any strategy today, including BRRRR. Even though I love BRRRR, I've created my entire wealth off BRRRR in today's market with the interest rates we have, especially in my market. That's why I'm here in Midwest, obviously. But in Texas markets, it's pulling teeth to find property that cash flows, even breaks even. So this model is so powerful, and this is going to keep working for years. I have seen so many, including one of my business partners based out of a leading lawyer out of Dallas, Scott Horn, who has been the go-to guy for most influential people that I know, including Pace Morby, who owns over 1,000 wraps. He swears by wraps. He has gone through everything, lost a lot of money during 2008, pulled out of all his BRRRR and owner financed each and every one of them, owns over 1,000 wraps now and just living the dream. Few questions from me before we can take other questions. What is the average value of your wrap in Kansas City market?
When you say value, do you mean
just
sales
to how much, like the selling price to the buyer?
Usually around 250.
Oh, still 250. Okay.
In that 250 to 270 range.
So in 2025, have you noticed any change in terms of buyers' behavior? I mean, have you seen less buyers interested in properties? I mean, is it becoming more of a buyer's market from the perspective of a realtor? I'm only talking about owner finance world, obviously. But when you talk to realtors, they understand this terminology like seller's market versus buyer's market. When we sold wraps, or rather we bought probably the most amount of wraps in 2022 and 2023, and everything sold super fast. But in this year, we are not selling as many wraps, and we are having a hard time finding those buyers. Are you experiencing this? Obviously, our overall affordability zone is on the higher side slightly, but are you experiencing the same thing?
It's all supply and demand, right? We taught our friends how to do this model in Kansas City, and there's like a bunch of guys selling it for $6,000 down. You know, one of my friends is literally changing neighborhoods in Kansas City, turning them into Latino areas because of the properties he sold in this model. Another mentor in Arkansas has also changed areas of the city through properties. It's all supply and demand. Like when we first started, we were getting down payments of $30,000 to $60,000 pretty regularly. We were actually making money on these deals. We were buying stuff with low down, and then we were getting enough down payment that we were making good margins on the sale. Now we sell them for anywhere from $10,000 to $30,000 down. I would say most of ours are right around $20,000 down now, 15 to 20. So we have the down payments are lower. And that's why I say like the down payments your lever, you know, and this is why you need to know your market. For us, we do lease options. So if we get 10,000 down and we have to do an eviction, you know, their 10,000 is going to cover like the eviction process. So it's the
lease option. Your lease option makes them pay for utilities, taxes, everything.
Yeah.
Lease option is standard where they pay taxes, insurance, maintenance, anything.
We bake it all in.
You're talking about 10,000 down payment for a $250,000 property?
It depends. If it's 250, it's going to be a little bit higher. So 10,000 is like as low as we will go, right? So like most of our properties we're marketing right now are right around 20,000.
So look at it more from the percentage standpoint. We do 10% across the board for the most part. Once in a while, we'll below that, but we try to stay above 10%. That's our goal. We can't do lease options here. That's one of the reasons why.
The lease options give us a bit more flexibility. At the end of the day, it is supply and demand. With everything going on, the administration change, just like the families who have 50,000 down, you know, they're being a little bit more careful right now just because of all the changes going on with immigration and so on.
100%. I'm one of the ones affected by that. So the average price, I did not expect that. Where me and my partners are in Ohio, our average is lower. I'm hopeful we will not have a shortage of buyers. It should be pretty easy to sell. Some people, like one of our borrowers, so Jada and I, you probably already know that, Jada and I own a DSCR brokerage company. So one of borrow area. So she's actually from Mississippi, but I mean, I think Memphis is on the border. So she's in the Memphis area. She has a waiting list of lease option buyers Is it that much demand if the average price is lower, closer to 150 on an average?
Yeah, it depends on the market, but I mean, whenever it's affordable, there's higher demand. Lower monthly payments sell quicker.
The first houses we have picked in our market here in Ohio, their payment is going to come out to be more closer to 1100 $1,200 instead of 2,500. I think it's going to be pretty lucrative for.
What's your cash flow on those?
Cash flow is little, obviously, but we are experimenting. So we pick our first properties to be more affordable. So our cash flow will be like $400-500.
Yeah, great.
Per
And
property.
you're doing the BRRRR?
Yes.
By rent. Okay.
I'm loving it
Yeah.
that it's catching on. Thank you for that.
If you're seller financing it at $1,200, those are going to sell super quick.
Oh, yeah. I have experience in Texas, but things are different in the Midwest market. For those listening, it's important to know both perspectives because some states do not allow you to do the lease options. So you're going to have to rely on what we did in Texas. And they're happy to break it down. I'm happy to bring my partner on and we can chat about the other perspectives. Phil is talking about Midwest and the characteristics of their market, and we can do the same for our market. But yeah, any other questions, Jada, do you see in the chat or anybody else who wants to unmute and ask?
Oh yeah, we have a couple questions. One was asking if you can do this with commercial properties or self-storage.
I have less experience in self-storage, but this exit strategy works in every asset class.
It does work in every asset class. Thank you for whoever asked. But here is the answer that most self-storage or apartment complexes or any other asset classes that are bigger are purchased by investors. So even if you seller finance at a higher interest rate than you are going to be selling it to an investor. When you deal with a wraparound mortgages or these options, you're dealing with, 80 to 85% of the times you're dealing with a Latino community. So it's a very community specific requirement, at least in Texas. Is that the same in your demographic of buyers?
Yep.
In our case, we see 90+%, but when I talk to anybody outside Texas, they say, yeah, there is, more than Latino, other communities are catching on and doing the same thing. So unless you're selling your entire self-storage to a buyer in the Latino community who understands this, there is a requirement in the Latino community for this product. They understand it. If you try to sell a wraparound mortgage to Indians, they would think it's a scam. It's not common. Most of the community has W-2s. They've never been in a situation that Latino community has been in, and they just won't understand it. So for that reason, I think other asset classes will not be as successful as a single family asset class because you're selling someone a home.
Which servicing company do you use and how do you find which servicing companies to use?
Yeah, great question. So we use a servicing company called Madison Management. Madison Management is the one that checked out. There's pros and cons of each servicing company. Madison requires buyers to have an ITIN or SSN. Other companies might not require that, which means you might have more people that aren't registered. But yeah, Madison, they charge $30 a month and they've done a good job for us. Most of the servicing companies use the same software. It's pretty easy to go in there and check up. Once you have a portfolio, most of what you do to manage is just counting money. Most checking is the capital coming in. If it's late, you figure it out.
Another question we had was, are you using DSCR loans or conventional loans long-term from the bank?
We use DSCR loans. When we're doing the jacket or bro, my friend coined it the jacket strategy, and he really was happy when that started taking off a little bit. But let's see, there's competing terms now. When we do that, we're using DSCR loans. So it's all DSCR. When it's subject to is conventional, right? You're taking over a conventional loan.
I just want to elaborate on what we are talking about here, because initially Phil spoke about it, and a lot of people may not know what creative is and what bro or jacket model is. When you do, so I like to talk about BRRRR model first, because that's where I started and that's probably the most basic model. So BRRRR, and again, to give you a little bit more background, when I first started in real estate, I thought the way to buy property is by hiring a realtor and going on MLS. And that's what I thought. I was super excited about negative $50 cash flow. I thought this is amazing. 30 years later, this property is going to be mine. Free and clear. I just have to pay $50 out of pocket every month, until someone told me to attend a seminar where I learned what wholesaling is and how I buy discounted properties. That's where I was introduced to a BRRRR model. BRRRR model is when you buy a property from a wholesaler or a distressed seller and you're getting a discount. When you buy this type of property, you have to remodel it. To remodel, you need to use your own cash, we don't have it handy because they have it invested somewhere else. So they end up choosing to work with a local hard money lender. One is you can get bank financing on properties that need work. And also the people that you're buying from, the seller is in distress, and that seller is not going to wait for your loan to clear. You need quick financing. And that's where hard money lenders exist. That's why hard money lenders exist. You get a hard money loan to fix the property. Once it's at par with the market standards, you're going to go to JADA, who does long-term DSCR loans, which basically gives you a lower interest rate and a long-term financing. It's a fixed interest for 30-year type of loan. When you go into that loan, now you can go ahead and rent the property and repeat the process. That's what BRRRR stands for. The only thing we are going to do differently, and again, what Phil started out, I started with BRRRR, my career. Phil started using creative purchases, which Pace Morby teaches. And it has existed for years, but Pace Morby made it popular. So what that means is he is buying properties using, or rather, he's buying those properties on a marketplace while taking over the loans that are existing on the property that seller has, probably at a lower interest rate. He's taking those over subject to. So all he's doing is the seller still stays on the loan. He takes over the property. He gets the deed to the property, and he's going to start making payments to the seller's mortgage. That is the easiest way to get low interest mortgages in today's marketplace. For a discounted property and then go to JADA, you're going to get 7 to 7.5% interest rate because that's the market interest rate. But if you used creative way to purchase, you can get interest rates as low as 2-3%. Okay. That is just equivalent to a discount on the property. Okay. But what's good about the BRRRR method is you are in charge of those loans. And oftentimes people that are selling or willing to sell their properties creatively are selling those because those properties are not selling easily elsewhere. So there is hardly ever there is equity available in the property. You're buying this property more because of the interest rate. In case of BRRRR model, you're buying a property with a discount. So that means you are walking into an equity situation and you're capturing equity. You're becoming, you're working your way towards that equity millionaire. In my opinion, is better than creative because I'm building wealth in equity form. Interest rates will go down, maybe not as low as 3%, and I can refinance it. But at that point, BRRRR strategy will look better than creative. But there is no right or wrong answer. This is just my perspective. When you compare the two ways to acquire properties, what you do with those properties is what Phil is talking about. And Phil is hitting it out of the park with his strategy of owner financing those properties. So he does not have to take a single phone call about tenants, trash, and toilets. That's what we call 3 T's in the real estate world. So that's why the BRRRR or the jacket model dominates. Again, there are pros and cons, and some argue that over the years, the properties will appreciate in value and you will not be there to take advantage of that appreciation. But because your time is freeing up and you don't have to pay for maintenance and other things of the property, you are able to do twice, if not 10x the volume as compared to BRRRR model. So that's where your wealth is coming from, not from the equity in the property.
Then we have another question. How high of an interest rate can you go?
Consolidated laws in your area, we prioritize creating more equity than higher interest rates. If you raise the sales price, you can lower the interest rate a bit and have more equity in the deal than you do like the interest rate arbitrage. But usually we're selling for between 8 and 10% interest. Consult usury laws in your area, like you can't sell for 20% interest. But usually it'll work out for us in our market about 8 to 10%.
Kansas City is the usury law, the limit is at 10%?
I'm not sure what it's above 10%.
So can I answer that question real quick? User law is for lenders. In this case, you are a lender. However, you're selling these properties, especially the way we sell it in Texas. When we are actually selling the property and creating a mortgage, signing over the deed to an end buyer. That's what I mean by creating a mortgage. When I do that, different laws apply other than usury, because I am selling a piece of property to an end buyer who is going to live in the property, or also called as homestead buyer. In case of Phil, usury laws, and again, I don't want to speak for, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think in your case, since it's a lease option, the lines are kind of blurry. between the usury versus the homestead buyer limitations. So I just wanted to clarify the two situations we face. Think about that.
With the lease options, the lines are pretty blurry because we're not even charging the interest rate. There's a rent credit table, but it's not explicitly stated in the lease or the option that there's an interest rate. It is a lease and they have an option to buy at a certain price. We have a rent credit table. So every single month that they pay, a little bit's applied to that principal, right? So there's no interest rate explicitly stated in our agreements.
So is there no mortgage in place whatsoever? So everything they're paying is rent and some portion will be applied towards their purchase.
Yep.
There is an agreement, side agreement, but underlying the main agreement, there is a calculation that goes more like a mortgage.
And what we've done is we've set everything up with CPA, attorney, Madison Management, our servicing company. So Madison Management will still service it, even though it's a lease option. And they just apply that rent credit every single month for us. So we're not doing that manually.
And another
In
question that
Texas.
kind of goes into this. Yeah, exactly. Texas RIP for lease options. Melissa had a perfect question about depreciation. Do you get depreciation with lease options and wraps?
With wraps, no. This is contested, but in my opinion, it's not really. I'm curious Chai's opinion.
I get it.
For contract for deeds and true wraps, you cannot write off depreciation. For the 30-year lease option, we thought you could, but my CPA, who used to work for the IRS for 8 years, is saying that in case of an audit, the IRS could call it a masked sale. Different CPAs would say different things. General lease options, the 3-year lease option, yes, you can write off depreciation. On our 30-year lease options, my CPA is saying no, because the IRS could say it's a masked sale. And then I'm actually bringing my CPA out for our community in like 10 days. And we're going to ask him all these questions. I'll probably structure a 10 to 15-year lease option as well. It's nice to have that depreciation.
This is not advice. People who are selling these properties to unsophisticated buyers, and a lot of our buyers in the wraparound world are unsophisticated, and they're not even giving them the lease option paperwork at closing or whatever they do. And all buyer has is a lease in their hands and a shake hand agreement to purchase the property, even if they sign papers. And that's how they are able to get depreciation and deny that document ever existed on paper. Just follow what Phil said and use your CPA for guidance. Absolutely.
There's a lot of people in the lease option world doing very predatory lease options. They're doing a 5-year lease option, 3-year lease option, 2 years, getting the properties back, recycling over and over again, and just selling people the dream of home ownership. For us, that's not how I desire to structure my business or my life or my impact. There's a lot of space for being a good human being when you're doing these types of deals. In any form of real estate, especially when you're working with first-generation Americans, we don't want to take advantage of people either. We want to structure in a way we can sleep at night and feel good about what we're creating.
Yes, love that. What else?
My question is along those lines of it being predatory or not, what items do we need to meet? Right. So we don't fall in that category of being predatory. So my main question on that is, are we having to show something similar to an amortization schedule that shows what amount is going towards the principal to be in compliance if there's any type of compliance for the lease option?
So in Texas, lease option illegal, right? They do like a 6 month.
I heard Ty say that. I'm like, wait, oh, okay.
Like the reason is people took, my guess is that the reason is because people took advantage of people on lease options. But you can do predatory lease options illegal. Like people do it all the time in a legal way. It's just like people come in and you increase the sales price every single year, like the strike price is called, the price they have to buy the property at each year. And then they just know that people are going to fail. We have a 90% success rate. Most of our families end up buying the properties. Legally, you can structure lease options in different ways. How we structure it is we do a rent credit table inside of the option agreement that they can see, and they know every month they pay, this is what the principal is going to be remaining after each month.
Oh, nice. I like that. That's exactly what I want to do, even if it's not a requirement by whoever's regulating. That's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
So in Texas, we have too many requirements because there is no lease option and we have to complete the sale. We have to abide by the Dodd-Frank Act. And so we have that. What that means is after 9/11, the Dodd-Frank Act came into place and so many things changed. There are certain things you have to do as part of the mortgage origination for homestead buyers. One of them is called Registered Mortgage Loan Origination. RMLO is a license with certain companies actually focus on owner financing, because when they look at owner financing, some of the laws have to be interpreted in a different way, such as when a buyer is claiming that they make $10,000 but do not have a proof to show you how and what documents to use in order to qualify these borrowers and use that 10,000 that they are claiming they make, even if they are making it in cash. First one, like how to verify that, and second, how to use that data to qualify the buyer. So those things have to be done in a way where the laws are interpreted differently. So very few companies are actually able to do that. So knowing those companies is important and staying on top of all requirements. If you're in Texas, do not use a company called August. That company has been around for years and they're going through a crazy like experience with these people. So please, if you hear their name, spread this word, tell everybody. I mean, I'm not trying to talk bad about someone's business, but this is really hurting, and they are a predatory servicing company almost at this point, because they are completely neglected. The operations are neglected. Anyways, that's how complex the Texas process is. Go ahead, Jade.
What was the name one more time?
August Arya.
Any other questions? Those were the ones I got.
I'm definitely reaching out to Phil after this for new things in our operation. How can people get a hold of your community?
Jada just posted, we have a free school community.
Oh, fantastic.
And if you get nothing else out, there's also like even beyond, like, I mean, this exit strategy is amazing. Like we love it. Chai loves it. It's a really great exit strategy. Go to the classroom and the foundations module. It's not necessarily model related, but get started there. Crafting your dream life structure is so important. ChatGPT is incredible. It prompts build out, not just the vision, but also the financial breakdown of like, based off of what my dream life looks like, how much do I actually need to be making each month? It's really cool. Hop in there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can I ask you about the ChatGPT prompts part you said? You're dropping these like big gems in a casual way in the middle of conversation. I was like, wait. What is that you just said? Okay, what do you do with ChatGPT prompts again?
We have a worksheet in our school community called the foundation section, and it is going to ask you questions. Now we fill out these questions, and then it's going to have you copy and paste a very well thought out ChatGPT prompt based off of what ChatGPT already knows about you and about how you answered all these questions. It's going to craft your dream life in several paragraphs. And so it's kind of like affirmational, like this. Yeah, it made me emotional when I did it. And like my wife also has done it as well. We read that vision, we come back to it over and over. This goes back to Napoleon Hill, Tony Robbins, Jim Rohn, like what all these, Brian Tracy, what all these people talk about, like envisioning your dream life. ChatGPT can really help us do that. That's document one.
That is so cool, man.
The second document is a breakdown financially based off of where you want to live, what kind of house, cleaner, kids, schools, how much you need to be earning.
I love how holistic you are as well. It's not just about build your portfolio with wraps. It's okay, what do you want? What do you need in life? And then how can you help other people do that? You're not just building your portfolio, you're offering home ownership to people. So it's all around good energy.
One of the biggest things we preach in our community is underwriting, and we want people to know different strategies and how to underwrite for those strategies. But guess underwriting strategies, no matter what you're trying to achieve, if you don't know yourself, if you have not experimented with your own desires and see if you're made for this or not, and what that dream life will look like, knowing who you are is so important. And that's what we preach, and why what you just said is probably the most important thing to me. It is closest to my heart. My entire life is revolving around trying to find myself more and more every day. I literally find myself every day. On our last call, literally last week, for the first time in my life, I learned to breathe while doing freestyle swimming. I've been wanting to do that forever. It hasn't been the highest priority, like investing or business. I never hired a coach or did anything about it, but I always tried to do that, ask people questions, and it just suddenly clicked. So it is so much more fulfilling when you actually find yourself, and then everything you're doing, no matter whether it's investing or working or wherever you are, it's all fun at that point, because that's what gives you fulfillment in life. Amazing. I love it.
I'm a philosophical entrepreneur. So like I've seen a lot of people who have like more money than they can ever possibly spend. I've seen them like constantly thriving for like more in like toxic ways. So we're programmed to desire more, and that can be aligned in a way where we're desiring more to grow to better human beings and to create more impact in the world, rather than just get more houses that I feel fulfilled. Breaking out that fulfillment cycle and just living the dream right now. That's how you win. When you stack how you make money and the impact you're having, you just love all of it. Now you're winning at life.
This is so motivating for me. I didn't realize where I was when we first started, but I am high right now. If anybody is feeling the same way right now, put a 1 in the chat. I just feel so light now. I feel good. Thank you.
Thank you, Phil, man. This is awesome.
Well, yeah, thank you guys for having me on and for hosting, and for everyone for coming and hanging out and listening. So I'm looking forward to seeing you guys in the school, and reach out to me on Facebook, Philip Loudon, Facebook, Instagram.
If you follow me on it, I was posting him throughout, so you can also find him there. Cool. Thank you so much for being here. I didn't receive any deals to underwrite, so we'll leave it at that for today.
So I do have Melissa Freeman in the call. To stay back if you want to look at how and what we do here. This is a free underwriting resource, no strings attached whatsoever. The reason we started this community is because of the business we are in, and we want our borrowers to come here and learn how they can grow their businesses. In turn, we get more loans, business opportunities, and connect with more people. So that's what we do here. One of our borrowers, Melissa Freeman, is in the call today, and I have promised her that I'm going to look at the photos of her property and give suggestions on the rehab, what she should do in order to get to where she needs to go, which is the valuation of the property. She has a family-owned house for generations. She is teaching her son to be a real estate investor. So we are going to look at that. Melissa, are you ready with the photos, or do you want to schedule another time? I'm sorry, I should have asked that first, I guess.
She's here.
Maybe she didn't find the unmute button. I have the Google Drive. We can pull it up. We'll do a quick 15-minute exercise and underwrite that deal. Since Phil has us all charged up, let's ride that wave and look at a proper. Do you have that link, Jada, or I can text it to you?
I also have Keegan, my son.
I'm going to share it in the chat so everybody can see it. This property is already owned in your family, so nobody can take that away from you. There you go. Did you get it, Jada?
I see it in the chat.
Fantastic. Please share your screen and we can go through it quickly.
Everyone see it?
Yep.
Okay, so please put that address on Google Maps and zoom out to show the Memphis area so we can see where the property is at.
Keep going.
Yeah, just zoom out to see Memphis. You guys see the border of Tennessee and Mississippi. So our partner, Ingrid, I'm right outside her house right now. I mean, Eric's house where she's staying at. She is helping us raise money for multiple projects. If you don't know Ingrid, follow her. 90% of you already know her. She's always helping with a lot of sub-2 community activities, very close to pace, very popular personality. So she reached out to a bunch of investors for Melissa to raise money for this property. Some investors replied saying, it's too rural for me. It is probably the most basic requirement to look up the property on the map. If you're underwriting a deal, looking at where that property is instead of trying to use your tribal knowledge to decide.
Looking up the property is good. That is one thing I'll reiterate from what Jai said.
Okay, so this property, when I look at the map to tell Ingrid it's in the Memphis area, when I spoke with Melissa and then looked it up, she gave me the background. This property turns out to be one of the best properties, not only in Memphis area. This property sits on 1 acre lot. It's surrounded by several big subdivisions. It's more like, I don't know if you guys are aware of this terminology, but we call this type of properties country in the city. So if you go around this property, if you zoom in, change your satellite view, you can see there is a bunch of little communities with small lots around this property. This is the only community with acreage lots. This property is one of the most desired in the area. When I spoke with Melissa and asked her, she told me I have a waiting list of people trying to move into this property. She has pre-leased the property even before buying the property. Again, it's a family home, but she is trying to from the family member. So she hasn't even completed the sale and she has already signed the lease starting September 1st. And the tenant has told her, oh, even if it's not fixed up, I'm moving in. So that's how desirable this neighborhood is, how safe this investment is from the lender's perspective. But the lenders missed it. The lender who ended up lending on this property saw what other people didn't. That's why underwriting is so important. This is probably the most crucial step in underwriting, looking at Google Maps, changing the street view to satellite view and checking the characteristics of those neighborhoods. Long story short, she's getting a great deal because it's a family member. Property does need some work. We were trying to get her a hard money loan from a big box lender, but the red tape involved made sense to work with a PML. So since it's their first time, they are trying, I'm helping them out with a process. So I told them to take pictures from all sides. Pictures are more important than a video from a lender's perspective or buyer's perspective, because it gives you an idea of the property in one, like you keep scrolling and you see everything about the property. Whereas in a video, you have to watch the entire video to find what you want. Always, if you're selling the property or requesting photos or videos, photos first, videos second. This is my style. But look at this property. It doesn't look in a bad shape compared to thousands of properties I've seen. All this property really needs is a facelift. Okay. So Melissa was under the impression that it's going to cost her about $45,000 to fix this property, which if I'm the contractor, I can make several arguments that why 45,000 makes sense. But if I'm an investor, and especially someone who can help a fellow investor, I will tell Melissa to just do paint and carpet, especially because it sits on an acre. And second, the tenant themselves have told her not to overdo anything. Okay. So I have already gone through this, but Jada, can you pull up the first picture and then just let's keep going one by one. So one of the biggest things about this property that needs to be done right away to get financing on it is keep going. I'll tell you when to stop. Go next. This property at some point lost the air conditioner, and the family member probably didn't have money to fix it or didn't think it was needed. So they ended up putting window units in all rooms. And that is the biggest expense besides paint and carpet that needs to be addressed. The floor, I mean, you can tell that it's a pretty typical rental property. Cabinets are intact. Okay, go to the photo where it shows kitchen. Okay, right there. No, next to it. One where shows cabinets, all of them. Yeah, that's it. So besides the paint, carpet, and air conditioner, cabinets are older, but appliances are stainless steel. There is some backsplash on the left side. There is no backsplash on the right side. So for this property to appraise at the top of the market, around 220, which is still in the affordability zone based on the terminology we heard earlier, because the appraisers that are appraising properties in that price point are not really looking for everything in its best condition. This property needs to look livable, clean, and updated. When I say updated, it doesn't have to be a designer grade updated when you're dealing with a $220,000 rental property. Okay. So I, as a contractor, will always justify that why this kitchen needs brand new cabinets. But now as a mentor or a fellow investor, someone helping a fellow investor, I will never change these cabinets. One simplest thing to do is just paint a neutral color, either white or any other neutral color you like, and be done with it. Just there is one couple drawers I can see that are broken. Those need to be fixed for sure. But one of the coolest hacks that I like to do is I hire a local carpenter that is affordable, change all the faces of the cabinets, because oftentimes the cabinet boxes don't get any damage. Most of the damage is on the faces. It's literally a facelift. Back then, flat doors were in style. Today, it's shaker style doors are in style. So changing these doors or faces out is not going to cost more than $1,500 in my area when I use a cost-effective carpenter. And I'm not looking for the highest grade carpenter to do this job. Because guess what? This is a rental property. Small, minor imperfections are fine. Okay. So you have to look at things really from the perspective of an investor, especially when you are someone who is doing high-end things like $1 million flips and suddenly change your strategy to buy rentals and do something else. Or you're not an investor, but you have designed your own house where you live and you have that perspective built. And now you have to switch gears to change your thought process. Changing these faces makes it look like a brand new cabinet. It has worked every time I've done this. So her rehab can potentially come from 45,000 closer to 25 to 30,000. It's possible. Again, she's not using the subcontractors like I do. So because it's a GC cost, it might go higher than what I'm thinking. But this property doesn't need a lot. After looking at these pictures, I'm pleasantly surprised. So the way the properties are built in the Mississippi or general Memphis area, this is on a pier and beam. Am I right, Melissa? Or this is like a block and beam?
Sorry, I should have just left it on mute. I forgot what the question
No,
was.
you're fine. No, so is it on a pier and beam foundation or block and beam? What type of foundation is it? Do you know?
It's conventional.
Like a pony wall type foundation. It has a crawl space under the foundation. Because of that, the floors are boards and not the concrete. So in some areas, the floorboards need to be changed, which is a minor easy fix. I just did that on a couple of properties. I mean, it was on a second floor. Texas, we are on a slab foundation. So in some areas, floorboards need to be changed. But after looking at these pictures, I do not see $45,000 rehab. Again, based on what she's trying to achieve. If she wants to flip this property, I would tell her to do brand new bathrooms. But right now, it's not needed at all. In fact, it's going to create more problems. Not only is she going to spend money on new bathrooms, then the tiles are going to break or something else is going to happen. These bathtubs are super sturdy, been around a long time, can be resurfaced. So there is a lot more advantages of keeping the traditional appraisers are not going to see it as an outdated thing. They will still consider it upgraded because you resurfaced it. I think we can do this under 30, 35 grand. I feel good about saving you that money, even though your cost of financing went up since we had to go from big box to traditional route. I'm sorry, big box to PML route. Any other questions about this rehab from you, Melissa, or anybody else?
No.
Jada reminded me there is a tractor shed on the property. She is not giving access to the tenant. Since the shed sits on the property, we have to do something about it in order to get the appraisal where we need and make sure it's not in our way of getting financing. That's another thing to think about. Melissa, these are the 3 favorite things I do in any property. Number 1, changing all the fixtures, ceiling fans, lights, faucets, mirrors, vanity lights, doorknobs, cabinet knobs. You might think that, yeah, this is a costly line item, but and this is another hack that you may not have heard before, but a lot of people hire contractors and contractors directly go to Home Depot and just buy whatever is on the shelf. Home Depot is not the right place to buy cheap designer grade fixtures. Amazon.com is the best place to buy those. Most of the times when I change all these fixtures in the house, I end up spending maybe 1,000 to 1,500 on Amazon, depending on how much I spend on these fixtures. So we are here trying to start our walkthroughs very soon. I promised you that I'm going to look at your property pictures. And I think that's going to help everybody else here. Look at this picture. Reason why you need detailed pictures. This tile is not just in a good shape. It's also looking okay. A lot of styles just recycle in the market. This style may not look out of style if you just keep it as it is, especially when it's a rental property. So there is no reason to spend $3 to $3.50 per square foot to put vinyl. Now tiles are back in style. Everybody's using different designer tiles, colorful tiles in the kitchen, in the bathrooms. So it's all back in style. So few years ago, I would have told, okay, this style is ugly, let's get rid of it. Now, I don't think so because things change. Little things like that add so much. If you stay on top of the market, like sentiment, styles, changes, you will know these things. Once you learn underwriting, you probably don't have to learn how to run numbers, but you still have to talk about what's changing in the market on a regular basis. That's why communities like us thrive, is because people want to come together and talk, what do I need to do differently to win in this market? That's why we exist and what we are going to keep talking about. I hope this helped.
There are 3 items.
Yeah, one thing I talked about is fixtures. Fixtures cost maybe 1,500 on the higher end. Okay, 300,000-400,000 houses or $500,000 bigger, then maybe 2,500. To install those fixtures, a handyman can do it for like $500. So overall, it's $2,000 upgrade. Okay. Second, and the most cheapest upgrade is electrical plates. Houses 300,000-400,000 and above, especially older ones, I change the switches and plugs. But if it's a simple rental property and the switches and plugs are fine, all I change is face plates, electrical face plates. Oftentimes 50s, 60s houses have yellow face plates. If you change them to white face plates, even if you keep the switches yellow, that white color goes a long way. Because right now white is in style. Okay. And the third thing I'm trying to remember, fixtures, that I think I lost my train of thought, but there is another simple upgrade you should do in the house. These are the 3 things, and I'll talk to you, Melissa. Those face plates cost like 35-40 cents per plate. All plates together don't cost more than $100 installed. The easiest upgrade you're going to do. So, people buy what they see. So whenever someone enters the house, it needs to look clean, feel updated, smell great. Always make sure the smell is taken care of. One of the easiest ways to take care of the smell when renting or selling the property is take care of your AC filters. Yes, I remember what the third thing is. The third thing is you need to change all the smoke alarms, all the AC vents. Even if you don't change them, ask contractor to spray paint them white. Simple upgrade. Take all the AC vents down, wash them with a pressure washer if you have to, let it dry and spray paint. Contractors already know these things. I've never done it personally. I've just seen them. I probably haven't even seen them do it. These are the cheapest upgrades. All the fixtures, electrical plates, and all other things on the ceiling like vents, smoke alarms, may not be required to change. It's your own personal decision if they are fairly new or they have life left in them. So by the way, smoke alarms have an expiry date and usually it's 10 years. So So remember that. A lot of people don't know that. Sometimes I have done houses where I haven't even painted them, but I have done these three things, because these three things alone change so much in the house. It just starts to make it look more modern. So paint is going to be costlier than any of these things. So I hope that helps. And if there is any question, happy to answer it about this particular property. If not, we'll probably call it a day.
That is so helpful. Thank you so much, Chad.
No, I don't think so.
Awesome.
Cool.
Thank you guys for
everybody.
sticking.
Thank you, Melissa, for coming. Remember to join the Facebook group because it's free and you get these every week. So yeah, join the Facebook community, share it with people that you like, that you want to see succeed. Thank you all. Have a good one.
Awesome. Thank you, Jada, for moderating. I'll see you guys in the Facebook group. We are going to start sharing more content in the group just like this. See you next Saturday.
Thanks, Chai. Thank you, everybody.